In our last episode, we exposed how the British North America Act and the Indian Act were tools to consolidate power, one ensuring federal dominance over the provinces, the other keeping Indigenous nations in a system of permanent dependency. But that was just the beginning, because the very foundation of Canada's political system, the Westminster model, was never designed to give real autonomy to its people or its provinces. Canada's political system wasn't built for Canada. It was imposed, inherited, and never meant to serve a nation as vast and diverse as this one. The Westminster system, designed for a unitary British state, was forced onto a federation that needed decentralization, not central control. At its core, the Westminster model is not about provincial rights or balanced governance. It's about control. The Prime Minister is not elected by the people, he is chosen by his party. And once in power, he holds near dictatorial authority with a majority government. Parliament exists, but real decision-making happens in the Prime Minister's office. Unlike true federal systems, where power is divided equally between national and regional governments, the Westminster model keeps all real power in one place. The provinces may have legislatures, but their autonomy is an illusion. Ottawa controls the funding, the courts reinforce federal supremacy, and the Prime Minister, armed with a majority, can ram through any policy without meaningful opposition. This isn't just a theoretical problem. It's played out time and again in Canadian history. Take Pierre Trudeau's invocation of the War Measures Act in 1970, suspending civil liberties and deploying the military on Canadian soil without real parliamentary oversight. Or more recently, the use of the Emergencies Act in 2022, where a sitting Prime Minister froze the bank accounts of Canadian citizens without due process. A Prime Minister in Canada has more concentrated power than a US president, and yet, Canadians believe they live in a democracy. The Governor-General is another relic of this system. Sold to Canadians as a ceremonial role, this unelected figure holds the power to dissolve Parliament, dismiss elected governments, and rubber-stamp federal authority. The Crown's presence isn't symbolic. It's a reminder of who this system was designed to serve. The King Byng affair of 1926 should have been Canada's wake-up call. A sitting Prime Minister was removed by an unelected Governor-General, sparking a constitutional crisis that proved just how much power rested in the hands of the Crown. And yet, nearly a century later, the system remains unchanged. Even in 2008, Stephen Harper was forced to prorogue Parliament to avoid a coalition ousting, because in Canada, the Prime Minister doesn't even control his own tenure. That decision ultimately falls to an unelected official. And now, in 2025, we are watching history repeat itself. Justin Trudeau's own hand-picked Governor-General, Mary Simon, prorogued Parliament to prevent a non-confidence vote that could have ended his government. This was not the act of a neutral figure, but of a political insider ensuring that the system worked in favor of the ruling party. The Governor-General was always sold as a safeguard against authoritarian overreach, but in reality, they have been used to protect it. Whether dismissing a government or keeping one in power, this role is a tool, not for the people, but for those who benefit from the system staying exactly as it is. Provinces were never meant to have real power under Westminster. The courts reinforce federal dominance, ruling time and again that Ottawa's authority supersedes regional concerns. And when provinces push back, whether over resources, taxation, or sovereignty, the answer is always the same. Ottawa decides. Look no further than Alberta's fight for resource control. The province has repeatedly tried to assert its right to manage its own economy, only to be stonewalled by Ottawa at every turn. Whether it's energy policies that cripple the oil industry or equalization payments that siphon wealth from productive provinces to fund federal overreach, the system is rigged against provincial self-determination. Even Quebec, the loudest voice for sovereignty, finds itself trapped in a game where Ottawa always holds the winning hand. The Westminster Act of 1931 was supposed to mark Canada's independence. But if the provinces had no legal right to sign, was it truly independence? Or just another power shift that left Ottawa in control while pretending Canada had broken free? The reality is, Canada never actually cut the cord. The monarchy remains the head of the state. The Governor-General, the Supreme Court, and the structure of Parliament itself are all relics of British rule. The United States declared independence in 1776 and built a system where the states retained real power. Canada took another 155 years to sort of become independent, and even then, it did so under a system that still placed all real authority in a centralized federal government. If Canada was meant to be a federation, why does its system still function like a colonial state? And if provinces can't govern themselves, what future is left for them? For years, Western Canada has flirted with separatism. Quebec has held referendums. Even Newfoundland only reluctantly joined Confederation under conditions that were never fully honored. The cracks in Canada's foundation aren't new. The question is, how long can they be ignored? Canada's political system isn't just flawed in governance, it's rigged in the way leaders are chosen. Next time, we'll expose another broken pillar of Canadian governance: how elections, the courts, and the media are used to maintain this system, ensuring the people's voice never truly matters.